have John Knisley here with us today. John is a principal at Fortress IQ, where he helps companies leverage process intelligence to accelerate their automation and transformation programs. Prior to his current role, John served as the chief architect for intelligent business automation at the Defense Department's Joint AI Center. So, John, I'm very pleased to have you with us. Tremendous experience and cross-industry leadership. Very much looking forward to your presentation. John, your audio is not coming through right now. Hey, John, I'm not getting your audio on our side right now, so if you can do a double check there, just make sure audio is okay.
Do you have it on my, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
you were
I can
coming
hear
in
you
and out
now.
during the intro.
Yeah, I can hear you now. If you can do your intro again, because we missed your first slide with your intro.
Let me go back there. You getting me now?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the introduction, Jose. We're excited to present today. I've caught some of the earlier sessions from Genpact and Molex, and they've been great. So let's just jump into this, and we'll get started. Peter Drucker, the business visionary, credited with really inventing modern management, taught us back in the 1950s that what gets measured gets improved. And I would argue, this can be considered the first steps in the ongoing journey that we're on towards creating a data-driven business culture. One that relies on data to guide your decision-making rather than intuition or personal experience. And in homage to Drucker, and given the availability of data today and focus on it compared to previous generations, we've extended his famous mantra: what gets discovered gets improved. So from what gets measured gets improved to what gets discovered gets improved. And with the advent of big data, the emergence of analytics, the adoption of artificial intelligence, the appetite for data-driven decision-making has been satisfied. Drucker won. We want to measure everything today and have a lot of great tools to do it. So the real issue and the question is, what new data can we discover and ultimately leverage to make improvements? What are those areas that are not yet discoverable, or, we don't have reliable data source for? And one of the biggest potential sources, are the day-to-day tasks and activities of a company that occur below the surface, outside of the SOPs and manuals, the ones that have evolved organically over time, and the ones that really dictate how work really gets done in an organization. And until today, there's been no real way to capture that, and decode that work, to explore it and really make sense of it, and use that data to improve the organization. So, let's unpack this challenge and opportunity a bit more. The potential impact of gaining a better and more complete understanding of your current state is fairly logical if you step back and think about it. Google Maps can easily get me from Chicago to Dallas. It's a 950-mile, 13-hour drive. There are a couple different routes I can take. It also tells me I can fly in 2 hours and 10 minutes or so. Moreover, there's a train that's available that takes 22 hours. There are even options for walking and biking if I'm so inclined. It's great detailed information to help me make a good decision. But what if Google does not know where I am currently? It's basically useless. It can't tell me anything about getting to Dallas. And that's the moral. You can't get from A to B if you don't know where A is, if you don't know where you're starting from. And we know this intuitively. What's the first thing you do when you go on a diet? You step on the scale and figure out your starting point. No one starts a diet by saying they want to get down to 180 pounds, but they don't know what they weigh currently. And business is no different. It's next to impossible to get to that magical future state if you don't know what your current state is. And most companies, I'd argue, the vast majority of companies, don't truly understand how they operate today, especially at the granular user activity level. They claim they do, but it's at too high a level to really make a difference. And as a result, companies generally fail miserably short of their transformation objectives. McKinsey has pegged the success rate at just 30%. Other reports that I've seen have placed it as low as 17%. And this translates to close to $1 trillion annually that's wasted on failed transformation programs. You can't without knowing where your starting point is. You know, understand to really plan for tomorrow. Trouble getting gate. Any complex, large-scale change is the lack of detailed knowledge activities. Full stop. And most companies truly don't understand how they operate on a daily basis. They have limited process understanding. They don't really understand what their customer.
Hey, John, your audio is cutting off again. I'm not sure what happened there, but it started cutting off.
How much did you miss me there?
Just I came in pretty quickly, about 1 minute at most. You're
Hey,
talking about.
Let me switch over to computer audio and see if that gives us a little better.
Let's try that.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear him actually more clearly now than before.
Okay. Let's try this. Hopefully this one sticks around a little better for us.
Actually, it's much better now. Thank you for that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was on the phone because of this problem. So no worries at all. Apologies for the audio problems we were having there. We'll get back. So since Forrester identified the process gap in a report a few years ago that vendors and ultimately customers faced, and they noted that everyone was on a mission to close it, the process insights landscape has been very dynamic, to say the least. We could probably debate the distinctions between process and task mapping versus mining versus discovery versus intelligence, all week long, and still not reach a consensus. They offer unique degrees of completeness and consensus, accuracy, time, cost, but suffice it to say, each approach takes a slightly different model to collecting data and documenting the processes. But all of them at some level produce workflow reporting that enables an organization to gain an understanding of their operations. And the right one for your organization, as always, ultimately depends on the requirements and what you're looking to get out of the technology in the near and long term. Looking first at the traditional manual approach using consultants and business analysts, this is often classified as process mapping. It allows you to go end to end through a process and across multiple applications, but it does not provide the coverage across the organization, and the sample size tends to be limited, which can create problems. Due to resource requirements and costs, the ability to scale is limited. And while it can capture variations and exceptions, there's also the potential to introduce human bias into the outputs, as well as errors and omissions that can occur given its manual nature. On the other side of the spectrum are the more pure technology approaches. They generally accelerate time to insight and provide more scale, but they often have trouble delivering full coverage. The academic mining solutions, which we've heard about today, can give a very detailed insight into workflow around certain applications, but they have trouble going end to end and require access to log files, which limits coverage. It can also impact deployment times. The discovery approaches that many of the RPA vendors are pushing are really good at task automation if you know what you're looking for and want to record an assumed happy path without any variances. But again, the approach has trouble scaling. Finally, the Fortress IQ approach to process intelligence that's in the middle of the diagram, we truly feel it offers you the best of both worlds. It gives you the depth and breadth to tackle complex use cases across the entire organization. I'll highlight, in a minute how we do it, but in terms of benefits, the solution speeds capture of processes by up to 90%, generates documentation to create your transformation roadmap, captures application coverage across the entire enterprise, and really offers frictionless deployment in minutes, with no integrations or log file requirements. Let me provide a quick overview of the Fortress IQ application and how it works to give you some context into how we are able to deliver those outcomes across multiple use cases. The platform delivers detailed insights on user activity to help companies make more data-driven decisions around key business initiatives, automation, operations, customer and employee experience, analytics, even compliance. And we fundamentally do three things: data collection, mining, and reporting on current state operations. And it starts with capturing continuous screenshots via lightweight software agents installed on target desktops. The agents automatically capture all the inputs on the screen and don't require any software integrations. And that's really key. There's no API or integration or log files required, so projects can be rapidly deployed. You can be capturing data in minutes. These images are then interpreted by computer vision technology and natural language processing and converted into structured data. Following collection, this massive new data set of user activity that's really never been available before is mined using machine and deep learning algorithms to categorize and segment and sequence the patterns in the information. And this information is then ultimately used to discover and map all the relevant processes within the organization across any and all applications that the employee uses. The final step is the reporting and the visualization of this data. The platform will tell you, what applications are being used, when are they being used, who is using them, what is the process frequency and duration, how are users interacting with the application, what are the process steps and all the permutations of it. All sorts of insights that can be explored to help accelerate automation, enhance workflows, improve customer service, increase compliance, whatever the use case may be. And again, the platform allows you to understand current state, because without that, it is very challenging to get to the desired future state. So, very cool technology that can drive value very quickly, typically in 2 to 4 weeks, compared to traditional process mapping with consultants. There you may be looking at 4 to 6 months, millions of dollars, lots of human resources, lots of errors and omissions as well. And the biggest issue with that traditional model, it just does not scale. Let me briefly touch on security, because it comes up in just about every early conversation. And if you think about it logically, we've got these sensors that are installed on computers that capture user activity and screenshot. I totally get it. People are rightfully concerned about security, and it's why it comes up so often. So we've addressed the security and data protection issue at multiple levels. The first thing is that we allow you to establish and allow and or deny list of domains and applications that you want to receive data from. Pretty straightforward. Observe these applications, don't capture data from these applications. So that's kind of the first layer of security, but obviously it's not enough, because some critical target applications may have sensitive data in them. So for the next layer, even before the data gets to the Fortress IQ system, we've got a masking appliance, which we affectionately call PEG, because it's the privacy enhanced gateway. And PEG is critical because it enables AI cloud benefits with on-premise deployment security. The appliance allows you to select which data fields even get to us. So if you've got social security numbers or PII information, you can have those fields not passed to us. And no business process work that I've ever seen requires individual social security numbers. They may be part of a process, but we don't need any actual records to deliver the process intelligence. On top of those two first layers, everything that's sent to us is encrypted with TLS 1.2. All data at rest is encrypted as well. We've also got a multitude of security certifications and regulatory standards that we comply with, SOC 2 and HIPAA and GDPR and ISO 27001, and we're continually adding and working on more of them. and finally, I'd note that one of our more recent leadership hires was a risk and security director. So safe to say we take the security and privacy issue very seriously. I've alluded to this a few times already, and there are a variety of business areas across the enterprise that customers use the platform to support. It can truly help support your organization's key strategic initiatives. Automation is probably the most obvious one, as companies struggle with scaling RPA programs and developing the PDBs for development, which we generate directly out of the system. As you're aware with RPA, development always outruns the analysis, and the roadblock to scaling is the delay on priorities or documentation. But because the technology can uncover and document the unknown at scale, we can play in a bunch of different areas as well, from operational excellence and customer experience, where we can find more discrete bottlenecks and sources of friction that need to be optimized, over to compliance and analytics, where we're giving you access to data to really understand what is going on in your organization. Around continuous improvement, companies find that we are identifying areas not typically uncovered by traditional methods. We are able to surface these incremental improvements by analyzing user activity at such a granular level. It may be the efficiency someone gains after using an application for a long time. Those kind of hidden shortcuts that aren't in the manual can be promoted to newer users. Or a field in a form that we see that gets rekeyed with the same information dozens of times a day by 20 or more employees. Turning that into a simple drop-down box is really a no-cost fix, essentially. That can save hundreds of hours over the course of a year and reduces data entry errors. And the really cool thing that we're starting to see clients is they're starting to think up new use cases that we had not considered. We had one recently use the system to gather current system requirements for a major platform modernization effort, and they estimated they could shave a full year off the overall project. And that's kind of a good segue into exploring outcomes in a bit more detail. Again, as a reminder, Fortress IQ does not deliver the desired future state, but we enable it by providing that current state insight so the project can be delivered faster and cheaper and better. This quote, "After 2 weeks, you guys know our business better than we do." That's from an insurance company CEO who we helped with a massive and rapid enrollment fix that delivered millions in current year revenue to the company. They could not enroll companies fast enough and were leaving money on the table. They had predicted that the process assessment would take up to 6 months and automating it would take another 6 months. Using Fortress IQ, they were able to assess the process and all the variations by the 30 administrators who did the work in less than 4 weeks. And then they were able to use the documentation generated by the system to develop a number of RPA bots in 3 months and eliminate that enrollment bottleneck and the whole backlog. And so that anticipated 12-month project got delivered in 4 and they were able to recoup over $2 million in the current year. Let me take a moment to review a recent case study that was published, and if you're interested in more details, we can certainly get you the original article as well. It highlights our work with Dentsu, one of the largest global marketing companies. They operate in over 145 countries with 65,000 employees, and we work with their Automation Center of Excellence, which is run by Max Shepardoff, the firm's Chief Automation Officer. And like many companies in the industry, much of Dentsu's expansion in recent years has been fueled by numerous acquisitions. Last count I saw was north of 150. And obviously, this creates an ecosystem of vastly disparate systems and processes and creates an environment that is very ripe for automation and system reengineering. And Fortress IQ is a key component, along with Catalytic and UiPath, in their technology stack. The COE works with over 400 people in the organization who are identified as automation champions and experts, and it functions to optimize the working lives of the employees. And the goal is ultimately to augment workloads and make the teams as efficient and productive and happy as possible. And as we all know, by automating a boring and repetitive task, the COE can help mitigate or eliminate the laborious strain of routine tasks and approval turnarounds and bottlenecks. So with a mission and a team and a scope so large and so critical to successful transformation, obviously there's a huge need to discover and document and prioritize processes for potential automation and reengineering. And as you see on the screen there, Dentsu was able to automatically mine, model, and document 2,200 processes in just 5 months with just 2 people operating the Fortress IQ platform. Equally impressive, later in the article, it's noted that it would have required more than 30 business analysts to gather the same level of detail and insight if the work had to be done manually. So a very interesting and compelling story. 2 people in Fortress IQ doing the equivalent work of over 30 BAs. I encourage you to read the original article. As I said, we're happy to get you a copy of it. It's a great example of understanding today to improve tomorrow. In an especially agile and creative industry where you may not always expect a significant automation transformation program. Building on the case study, let me explore the core of where Fortress IQ really drives business value for organizations, whether it is scaling automation or optimizing processes, again, improving customer experience. The foundation for the value delivered really stems from accelerating discovery. Understanding that current state is really the linchpin to any successful change program. So looking at discovery from a manual process compared to Fortress IQ's approach, a manual process typically begins with an artifact review. You may also run a workshop or do some Kaizen sessions. You'll then document the process and do some analysis. Every time there's going to be rework that's involved. And at the end of the day, typically what we find and what we're hearing for clients is that it takes, usually 2 people, 4 weeks, often more, to document a single process. With Fortress IQ, we have a few hours at most to install the sensor and start capturing data. If we're looking at new systems or custom applications, it may take a day or 2 to classify those screens. But then almost immediately, we're starting to get early insights before we've even mined any data. This early information may include, machine events and application usage and duration and timelines, control types, and you have that access to that almost immediately. Then, if we go into further analysis, it may take, 1-2 weeks to analyze that data and really document the processes. And then, we've got to uninstall the sensor, which, takes minutes essentially. Ultimately, this adds up to discovering 2 to 3 processes, again, because we're observing all the work and activity that the target users are doing. So we can discover more processes over a shorter period of time with fewer resources. So we're discovering 2-3 processes in every cycle with 1 FTE over a week and a half. And this delta between manual and automated discovery drives efficiency of your BAs and consultants, enables your automation team to work more efficiently, uncovers the previously hidden processes for optimizations, and really enables transformation discovery. We've developed a full business value model that goes into much more detail that I'd be happy to share with anyone that's interested in exploring it. Just let us know after the presentation. One of the keys to our client success and the platform's ability to quickly drive business value is our strong network and growing partner group. For companies that want to jumpstart their adoption of process intelligence or don't have the internal resources to fully support a program, partners are a great avenue. As you can see, we're aligned with many of the most respected companies in their field. The advisory firms at the top can really help with strategy and implementation and best practices and even production in some cases. In that middle layer of complementary technologies, you may already have some of them in your automation tech stack or be considering them. But we are able to integrate with each of those solutions to varying degrees, and we're adding to it all the time. Let me also mention that many clients go it alone and rely on in-house resources to build out their process intelligence capabilities. That can work as well. We do provide a dedicated customer success team that's provided at no cost, and this group really works hand in hand with your team to get you started on your process intelligence journey. Ultimately, the goal is to enable you to fully leverage the platform independently, but we recognize that it will take a few cycles to get there and work with you to be self-sufficient. It's the classic crawl, walk, run type model. And in full transparency, I would say the companies driving the most value from the platform are the ones who are running it themselves. They've got the resources, they've got the understanding to really drive incredible value, like I shared about Dentsu, from the tool totally independently. In closing, and to wrap up a bit, let me summarize the key value drivers of the platform, in one place. And we've really touched on all of them throughout the session, so no reason to dwell on them, but it can be helpful to see them all together. First off, we've created a unique platform to decode your operations and really capture, for the first time ever, your user activity in an efficient way and transform it into an asset to support strategic business initiatives. And we do that by, delivering 100% recall to really ensure accuracy and greatly reduce the project rework. Ongoing or recurring discovery is possible and really enables you to assess project impact over time. I've talked about it a few times, just the massive time to value improvement, 80 to 90%, literally going from 6 to 8 months to 2 to 4 weeks. Any process, any application across the entire enterprise. Nobody else in the market can deliver at that scale. And we believe a more complete and less biased model than the traditional consultant or BA approach. We're generating those level 5 PDDs with step-by-step instructions to really scale your workflow programs. One final advantage that's not noted is the platform versatility, and I've touched on it a couple times. Obviously it can go very deep into a process, but again, it can also go very wide across the organization. As we get ready to shift into Q&A, let me take a moment to just thank you for your interest. Apologies for some of the audio issues that we had early in the show, but overall, I think this has been great. Hopefully it's been informative for you. And you were able to get a sense of how Fortress IQ enables you to explore use cases across the entire enterprise to really execute more consistently and reliably than the competition. As I've said a couple times, with any large complex project, to be successful, it's critical to understand today so you can improve tomorrow. I've got a couple next steps on the screen. If you're interested, definitely check out our website to download our solution brief to get some more detail on the platform. You can also request a demo that's really tailored to your organization. And also feel free to connect with me anytime. Happy to strategize and advise you on how best to incorporate process intelligence into your automation and business transformation journey. So thanks again. Jose, if you're ready to jump into Q&A, I'm ready when you are.
Let's do it, John. Let's do it. Excellent.
Yeah,
So
let me kill my slides.
your audio was perfect after you made that adjustment. So everything was smooth.
Isn't that how it goes? You use the phone because you think it's going to be more reliably, and the good old-fashioned DSL line that I've got running in my house out here in the country can work flawlessly and deliver the video.
Exactly right. And
never a dull day, that's for sure.
Hey, we got questions and commentary that has come out throughout the presentation, so that's good. So I'm gonna start by one of the themes that has emerged here has to do with the technology itself, kind of this use of RPA with a new dimension with sensors and as you mentioned, you know, machine vision and natural language processing built on top of that. Tell us a little bit about the technology here. A lot of people are asking, is this something that is this a proprietary technology that has been created by the company? Is this a third-party technology that you're using? Just the technology itself, it feels like RPA 3D.
I mean, it is definitely, you know, part of your intelligent automation tech stack, and again, really focused on that initial sort of process discovery, process intelligence, process analytics space. So yes, proprietary technology that's been developed over by our team over the past 2 years really combines computer vision, natural language processing, deep learning algorithms, and really brings it all together to deliver that detailed insight into your day-to-day users' activity.
Yeah, I think the more marketing minded on the call are saying that, you know, there may be a name for this thing that you're creating here because it's quite unique. Well done. So one of the questions that let me blow up the comment section here so I can see better. William Fuller was asking about opportunities to obtain detailed knowledge of current operations in large enterprises. And and that is a question itself. I'll add to that by saying that where you're seeing the best use cases of this RPA with kind of a full immersion with natural language processing and machine vision like you just described. What are some of the best use cases look like? And to William's direct question is that how are larger enterprises leveraging this type of technology and applications?
Yeah, a couple questions there. Let me try to unpack them. I think I can get to all of them. In terms of the use cases, traditionally, you know, and again, we're only talking 2 years, but you know, in the old days, you know, more than 6 months ago, primary focus was around trying to accelerate RPA. And anybody who's been involved in RPA knows that it's not the development that slows you down, it's finding the right opportunities, documenting them, prioritizing them, and then getting that documentation over your development team. Because typically what I've always seen is, you know, you spend, you know, months trying to document, assess the process, and then the minute you hand it over to your RPA developer, the first thing they do is go back to the subject matter expert and say, okay, what's your process? And that, you know, essentially that whole time has been lost. Because we're giving that, you know, very granular look into what the activity is, the RPA developer can really start almost instantly you know, development and does not have to go back because the documentation is much more accurate and detailed than they've been accustomed to. So that's what a lot of our early use cases are. More recently, it's been great to see organizations start using sort of more of the general data and analytics and insights provided by the tool outside of that standard RPA. So For instance, we had one organization that came to us and they were doing a HR system migration and upgrading their systems, but they had 106 plants all over the world, and they really needed to find out what was happening in those plants so they could help build the requirements for the new platform. And so we did that assessment with them. And interestingly, originally the plan was to just survey the people, directly with a handwritten survey, and they wanted to use us to validate the information that was coming back in. So they didn't necessarily believe what information was going to come back in from the various plants. So they wanted to have sort of that perfect recall about what was actually going on and what tools people were actually doing. We've also had use cases where an organization was looking to shift resources from one geography to another, and they needed to very quickly develop the SOPs, the standard processes and procedures that the team was doing, so then they could transfer that work to another part of the organization. And sort of, again, I've sort of termed those as discovery transformation programs. So sort of, big complex programs, but again, things that you need that detailed insight on what you're currently doing to really jumpstart the improvement that you're trying to get. But again, even compliance, we're starting to get organizations looking at it for compliance. The first step in almost every audit compliant procedure is document your current processes. And with this technology, we can very easily, deploy that sensor onto the target desktop, record them for 2 weeks, and then get a, very detailed insight into what exactly that user or that group of users is doing.
Yeah, I definitely can see many use cases in compliance, safety related alone in the energy industry. We had a lot of needs for, making sure that someone is taking some sort of training, for example, that that person is there taking that training and they're going through the training correctly. It may not be the original aim of your application, but certainly there's a use.
We're seeing a lot more use around it, and also to touch on the other piece of the question in terms of deployment to a large enterprise. We generally work with the Global 2000. We've got everybody from a bunch of folks in the Fortune 10 as well. So very comfortable working with large enterprises. And the way deployment works, we don't have to capture activity on everybody's desktop. So if there's a group of 50 or 60 that is doing roughly the same type of work, we may put the sensors on 10 of those people. We may sort of target them. A couple of people have been there for a long time, a couple new users, so we get a diverse source of data. But we don't need to capture information on everybody who's doing the task, just that sort of subset. And really what we're doing is we're turning it into a big data problem, because we see somebody who's doing this process dozens of times a day or once a day or once a week, whatever it is, over a set amount of time. And so if they end up going to lunch in the middle of the process one day, that doesn't really throw off our data set, because we're looking at this larger spectrum of data and larger data set that we can toss those out as outliers, and then really sort of turn this into a big data problem, mine it, and really identify the core processes, sub-processes, and tasks that go on with that group of people.
That's very good, because that commentary right there addresses a number of the questions that came up, which is, I have 200 users, do I need to equip 200 laptops, desktops with sensors? And so you address that. You have kind of a selective way of getting a representative sample, if you will, that could be sufficient. Now, John, on that, on the professionals and pieces of equipment where you deploy the sensors, tell us a little bit about the sensors themselves, installation. Is this something that you ship to someone and they can install themselves? It requires a technician to be there. I mean, what does this look like?
Installation is very simple. As I mentioned, it's literally can be deployed in minutes. It's a standard, MSI file. So it's a point and click install. It can be pushed out by IT, or it can be simply installed by end users. Just download the file and double click on it. We've got one client who actually installed it into their app store. So the person just goes to the app store, the internal kind of corporate app store, and downloads it from there. As I mentioned, it's very lightweight. It's less than a 2 meg file, and uses very limited resources. System resources, I think, are like less than 3% CPU, and maybe around 8 to 10 kilobytes per second bandwidth. So uses almost no system resources, almost no bandwidth as well.
Is there any hardware to the sensors?
No hardware. It's purely just a piece of software agent,
Okay.
as we describe it, that sits on the computer, can be easily installed and uninstalled when the observation is finished.
Perfect. That's good to know, because there's some questions about that regarding if there's a hardware component to this. So you have addressed that. Another question here comes from William Fuller. He asks, how many process levels are recommended for data collection? All of them, or some fixed process level? Does that ring a bell to you?
I will say we will argue that we do a level 5 process documentation, and at that level, it is the screen by screen shots of the activity and what's going on that desktop. A level 3 might be sort of that traditional swim lane diagram or SIPOX that we've heard about today, but we go all the way down to that very detailed level, and that's why when we pass it over to development or operational excellence or continuous improvement, whatever the team may be, they get a very detailed, documentation about what that person is doing on a, essentially click by click basis through their day, and really that information allows, the sort of accelerated discovery. And again, I think it's important to note, and it didn't really touch on it during the talk, this technology doesn't get rid of your business analysts. What we're really aiming to do is make them more efficient, and just like RPA, try to shift them from lower value to higher value work. So we're trying to get them to analysis, essentially immediately, and allow them to skip the whole data capture and discovery process, and just let them start analyzing, almost instantly. So then they can, accelerate their output, because they don't have to go through that whole documentation and preparation and artifact review and all those pieces. We enable them to get to analysis, instantly. But they're key. We can't tell you what the ideal future state is. We're telling you what you're currently doing and how you're currently operating. And from there, we need that human intelligence to say, okay, yes, there's the bottleneck. How do I fix it? We can't tell you how to fix the bottleneck or do the implementation of it. That's going to rely on the people, but we're speeding up that time to analysis more than anything else.
And that's very good insights from you. Very honest on what it can be or can be done by the software and what needs to be done by the business. Very good. So John, where do and you talked about some of these use cases, but if I want to get started and playing with this, actually before that question, I have a different question that popped up here that I think is important. You are getting, as you mentioned, it's interesting because you come in to maybe look at one process, one aspect of someone's job, for example, and then through this technology and the monitoring that's taking place there, this person does many other types of work throughout the week, and you can capture all of that, and then you have this richness of information now that you can analyze. I'm curious, just maybe a bit anecdotally here, how much of that becomes part of the effort? I wonder, because a lot of times, you do some process work and it turns out to be like 10% of someone does during the week. And then you discover that there's other 90%. I'm curious about the evolution of this. Is that a natural progression that people naturally start looking at other things, or clients have stayed very well focused on only the 10% that they're after?
Yeah, interesting. Let me answer it a couple different ways. Number one, when we go in and sort of observe, we're observing generally everything except that, what's on the allow or deny list on the security side as well. But it's funny, twice in the past, 60 days, we've had some outputs, and we've gone into the client and said, okay, we observed these 10 people for 2 weeks. You said they all do essentially the same job. Only 3 of them are in the core application that you said these people would be in every day. These 3 people are doing 90% of the work that you of the entire group, in terms of time spent in a specific application. And immediately sort of heads perk up and like, hang on, how'd you figure that out? We thought they all did the exact same thing. So that is very much an eye opener for people a lot of times. Again, it's giving you this level of detail that you've traditionally not had access to. So that's kind of the biggest surprise people get. And again, we're sort of observing everything. When you go in and do it manually, typically you're going in and saying, okay, I want to see how you do unmatched transactions, how you solve those. We're seeing their much larger piece, and that's why typically from an observation period, we're getting 2, 3, 4 PDs or opportunities for re-engineering, as opposed to the human analyst who's just going in with sort of that laser focus on the one opportunity that they're trying to get. So it's just, again, that natural extension of the platform.
Very good, John. Our time is up, but it has been an incredibly interesting journey on understanding this application of Fortress IQ is doing a very unique, very interesting approach to understanding processes, understanding opportunities for improvement and innovation. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights, sharing your expertise with the global audience today.
Thank you very much, Jose. And again, thank you for helping me out with the audio issues. I think we got it solved there, and apologies that we had some hiccups there in the beginning, but thank you very much, and have a great rest of the conference. I look forward to tuning in to some more of it.
Thank you, John.
Have a good one.
Ladies and gentlemen, this wraps up day 1 of Process Mining Live. Tomorrow, let's take a look at what we're going to cover tomorrow. The first session tomorrow, we'll have Sandy Kemsley and Pierre Gaudi from Signavio talking to us about process intelligence and the silver bullet for analyzing disruption. That will be followed by Norman Rankis, who is a technology leader at McWane Dactyl. And Norman is going to be talking about Internet of Things and data mining for results in the company. And he's going to show very practical applications that they're having for the technology right now in their organization. Following Norman, we have J.M. Erdenson, and J.M. is going to talk about bimodal process mining for operational agility, help understand what kind of mining and analysis will give us the insights we need to improve our business operations, and understand and act on those insights from process mining and analysis activities. And then tomorrow we wrap up the day with a presentation from Proqis Engineering, and it's going to be on leveraging process mining to design for success, strategic facility and capacity planning. And this is going to be done by the Director of Process Engineering at Proqis Engineering. Christina Pumphrey is going to be here with us tomorrow, and she wraps up day 2 for us tomorrow. So thank you so much for incredible engagement today. Awesome questions throughout. For those of you who want to follow up on additional items, go under LinkedIn, make your commentary, ask questions, and to the extent that we can, we're going to answer those. We appreciate your feedback on all of the sessions, and we'll carry on there until tomorrow, and where we're going to be live again at this same spot. And I hope to see you back. So thank you for now. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow.